Welcome to the deep dive. You've got the questions, we've got your sources, and, well, together we're cutting through that information overload to get to what really matters.
Exact.
Today we're plunging into StakeStone, specifically their core innovation, Stone. We're using their own documentation as our guide here.
Yeah, the source material looks pretty detailed.
Right, and if you're anything like us, you're trying to keep up with this fast-moving crypto and DeFi world, but, you want to grasp the key developments without getting totally lost.
Information overload is real.
It really is. So our mission today, let's clearly lay out what StakeStone is aiming for, how this stone mechanism actually functions under the hood, so to speak, and highlight the potential game changers based purely on this document. Okay, let's get into it.
Let's do it. So right off the bat, what's really interesting is this core concept, Stone. It's designed as yield-bearing liquid ETH.
Okay, yield-bearing liquid ETH. Break that down a bit.
Well, think about traditional staking, right? Your ETH is locked up, it's illiquid while it earns yield.
Can't touch it.
Exactly. But with Stone, the idea is your staked ETH can still generate that yield, but it remains usable, liquid.
So you can use it in other DeFi stuff while it's technically staked and earning?
Precisely. It fundamentally changes things for staked assets. Instead of dormant capital, it stays active. That means, much better capital efficiency.
Yeah.
A big deal in DeFi.
Right, okay, so that's the what. Now the how. How do they actually pull this off? The doc talks about a stake and mint process. You put your ETH in, then what?
Okay, so you deposit ETH into StakeStone, then this minter contract steps in.
Minter contract, okay. Does it just create stone?
Well, yes, but not arbitrarily. It mints Stone based on an exchange rate, ETH to Stone. And that rate is determined by smart contracts.
Okay, so the amount of stone you get reflects the current ETH value.
Exactly. And the document says this minted Stone goes straight to you, the user.
Got it. And the ETH I deposited, where does that go?
Almost immediately, it goes into what they call the StakeStone vault.
The vault. Sounds like a holding area.
Yeah, kind of like a temporary stop, because the ETH doesn't just sit there. The next step is the deployment process.
Okay.
Once the smart contract triggers deployment, that ETH moves from the vault to the strategy pool.
Strategy pool. Sounds important. Is it just one big pool?
Not quite. It's actually made up of various different underlying yield strategies.
Multiple strategies working at once.
Yeah, and crucially, how these strategies get chosen and sort of proposed is through something called OPAP.
OPAP. Okay, another term to remember. But hang on, you said the ETH is allocated dynamically. It gets rebalanced.
You got it. It's not a set it and forget it allocation. It's based on this optimizing portfolio and allocation proposal mechanism. That's OPAP. It suggests a continuous optimization process.
Driven by proposals. Makes sense. So OPAP, what does that stand for again?
It's the on-chain proposal to add new yield routes and optimize allocations.
Right.
So once the ETH is in the strategy pool, it gets put to work based on these strategies. The doc gives examples like staking it to get safe.
Okay, like Alito's staked ETH.
Yeah, and then maybe restaking that steth into eigenlayer, or even handling withdrawals from eigenlayer. It's actively managed.
Wow, okay. So it's really plugging into different yield opportunities.
Okay.
But who decides? Who manages all this? Sounds complex.
Yeah.
And, frankly, risky.
Good question. Security and transparency are key here. The document stresses that these operations are executed securely using a multi-signature setup.
Multi-sig, so multiple parties need to approve transactions.
Exactly. Controlled by trusted partners, they mention Kobo and CoinCover. That adds a serious layer of protection.
Okay, that'll help.
And as we mentioned, OPAP is the governance piece. It's an on-chain proposal system. And here's the kicker.
Yeah.
It's the stone holders themselves who get to govern. They vote on the asset routes, the strategies, and how much weight each one gets within the strategy pool, all through OPAP.
So wait, if I hold Stone, I actually get a say in how the underlying ETH is being used to generate yield.
That's what the document indicates. A pretty significant level of decentralized control, right? If the community agrees on a new strategy via OPAP, it gets added.
That is significant. Okay, moving on slightly, the doc also mentions utilizing Stone for additional yield. They call it StoneFi. So holding Stone isn't the end of the story.
Nope. There are ways to potentially earn even more. They talk about stone pools.
Stone pools, designed for extra yield, presumably.
Exactly. And a big part of this seems to be cross-chain capability. StakeStone apparently has a bridge.
A bridge. So you can move Stone to other blockchains.
That's the idea. Deploy Stone across different chains. And this opens the door for users to earn LP rewards.
Liquidity provider rewards. So I could take my Stone, say, to Arbitrum or Optimism, pair it with something else in a DEX pool.
And earn those trading fees as LP rewards.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. But the document mentions something else too, locking LP tokens for enhanced rewards.
Right. So you get your LP tokens from providing liquidity, and then you can choose to lock those within the StakeStone protocol itself.
And that gives you extra rewards on top of the normal LP fees.
That seems to be the incentive. It likely helps secure liquidity for Stone across chains and adds stability to the system. They also briefly mention Liquidity Pad.
Liquidity pad, what's that?
Part of StoneFi. Sounds like a way to help bootstrap liquidity for these Stone pools, maybe working with specific partner assets. The details aren't fully laid out in this section, but it's another component.
Got it. So layers of potential yield here. Now, another big claim is omnichain liquidity and instant withdrawals. This sounds like a major user benefit.
It really does. They say it's powered by Native's infrastructure, aiming for seamless liquidity across many chains.
And the instant withdrawal part, that's huge for staked ETH.
Absolutely. If it works as described, users could potentially withdraw their ETH instantly with low slippage, no matter which chain their Stone is currently on. Think about avoiding those, long unbonding periods you usually get with staking.
Yeah, no more waiting days or weeks. That's a game changer if they nail it. Is it just good for users or for other projects too?
The document suggests benefits for other protocols as well. They could potentially tap into this deep cross-chain ETH liquidity that Stone provides.
How so?
Well, imagine a new DeFi protocol launching. Instead of struggling to bootstrap their own ETH liquidity pool on a DEX, maybe they can just integrate Stone.
Because Stone aims to be usable on any DEX anyway.
That's the implication. It could let protocols focus more on their actual product instead of just liquidity management for ETH pairs.
Interesting. Okay, let's quickly recap the core components they described just to solidify this. First, the StakeStone Vault. We know ETH goes there first. What's its main job?
Think of it as that secure waiting room. Its primary function is to hold deposited ETH before it gets deployed to the strategy pool.
And it's secure how?
Crucially, it can only send ETH to the strategy pool. You can't just withdraw directly from the vault. And any movement in or out of the strategy pool needs that OPAP approval we talked about.
Right. Governance is key. Okay, next, the minter creates Stone. Why is it decoupled from the underlying assets?
That decoupling is important for stability. It lets StakeStone adjust the strategies in the strategy pool, maybe switch ETH from one staking method to another without messing with the Stone supply or its peg to ETH.
So, operational flexibility without destabilizing the token itself.
Pretty much. It acts as a buffer.
Makes sense. And finally, the strategy pool. This is where the action happens, the yield generation. What's the key takeaway here?
It uses a whitelist of approved yield strategies, all governed by OPAP. This ensures some quality control. And importantly, they claim risks are isolated within each strategy. So if one strategy has a problem, it shouldn't, in theory, spill over and affect the others in the pool.
Risk containment. That's crucial in DeFi.
Definitely a major design consideration.
Okay. Now, near the end, they quickly list a few other things. SBTC and Stone BTC. Related to Bitcoin, obviously, but not much detail here.
Yeah, just acknowledging Bitcoin's presence on the platform somehow.
Then StonePay, marked as coming soon. So payments, maybe? Future plans.
Looks like it. Expanding the utility of Stone.
In a governance section, mentioning things like Sto conversion, lock, vote, swap, and burn. Reinforcing that community control aspect again.
Exactly. All pieces pointing toward holder participation and control.
They also mention resources for developers, smart contracts, APIs, cross-chain stuff. Basically inviting others to build on StakeStone.
Standard practice, but good to see. Opening up the ecosystem.
And finally, additionals like audits, security, bug bounty, risks, terms. The usual due diligence stuff, important for users to check out.
Absolutely. Transparency and acknowledging risks are vital.
Okay, phew. So let's try to wrap our heads around this. Key takeaways. Stone is yield-bearing liquid ETH. You stake ETH, it goes to a vault, then a strategy pool.
Right. That pool uses different yield strategies governed by Stone holders through OPAP.
And Stone itself can earn more yield through StoneFi, potentially across different chains.
Plus that major promise of omnichain liquidity and instant withdrawals.
So for you listening, hopefully this deep dive gives you a much clearer picture of StakeStone's core mechanics straight from their own material.
Yeah, it's a complex system, but breaking it down helps. The integration of yield, liquidity, and governance is quite ambitious.
Definitely. And it leaves us with some things to think about, doesn't it? Like with all these different yield strategies being decided by the community via OPAP, what are the long-term effects? How might those collective decisions shape the platform's evolution and, its overall risk profile over time?
That's a big question. The wisdom or folly of the crowd applied to yield strategies.
And also this idea of omnichain liquidity. If solutions like Stone really take off, how could they fundamentally change DeFi composability? How different apps connect and work together.
Yeah, and what does that mean for the user experience across this whole multi-chain landscape we're living in? Could it become much smoother?
Definitely some food for thought there.
Yeah.
Okay, that's our deep dive for today. Until next time, keep exploring.